First off, looking at this back view, we can clearly see his knee valgus has improved considerably. A lot of decompression in the rib cage, spinal position improved, scapular position and shoulder elevation has improved. Anterior view, we can see that improvement in his knee valgus. Shoulders more elevated, collarbones aren't as depressed. Lateral view, we can see improvement in his anterior pelvic tilt, his posterior tilt in his rib cage, and his kyphotic roundness. You definitely see a difference in those. Ryan's first gait at 3 miles per hour is experiencing knee pain due to 2 injuries, one being an ACL tear, the first injury kind of leading him into that second injury. Here we have him a couple weeks later, still experiencing knee pain, moving just a little bit smoother, not too much improvement here. This is his posterior view from that first day. You can see that he's got that kyphosis, a lot of compression on that left lumbar erector when the right heel strikes. Forward head. Here, a couple weeks later, we can see he's a lot more stacked, rib cage inflated, scapular position improved, neck position improved. Let's see, and then we have, this is a close-up of that first day where we can see that left erector jarring as his right heel strikes. So in this following video, it's a close-up of his gaits. A couple weeks later, we can see improvement in that jarring on his left erector. It's not nearly as dramatic as the first video. Alright, here's a lateral view of Ryan running at 6 miles per hour. We can clearly see he's very limited in the flexion and extension in his hips and knees. He's getting a little bit of trunk rotation, still pretty limited. TVA engagement not all the way there. Slightly leaning to the balls of his feet. He's going to be anchoring a lot more tension in those quads and getting those glutes to fire. In this following video, I want you to take note that it is at 8 miles per hour, so the gait assessment is going to be a little bit skewed. But in the following video, he's not experiencing any knee pain. It's completely gone, so he decided that he wanted to run a little bit faster. So obviously there's going to be a range of motion improvements for the fact that he's actually moving faster. So let's go ahead and get into this gait here. So yeah, definitely see improvement, flexion and extension in his hips and knees. Granted, that could be because he is running faster. That is a factor here, but I also want you to take note that he is, just look how much more fluid he is moving as he runs. You can tell that he's taking a lot more shock absorption through his whole body instead of that anchoring in his lumbar and his knees. And as he moves through, he's getting definitely a lot more trunk rotation, more flexion in those arms. He just looks like he's moving through that horizontal plane a lot more effortlessly in comparison to that first video, and he's running faster, so that goes to show that we are getting him to connect a lot more in order to improve his speed and to diminish his pain. So here we have him. Here's a posterior view. I want you to just make note of that spinal position. It's still, once his trunk, when he's rotating to the right, when it hits neutral and that right heel strikes, he's getting a lot of lumbar compression on the right side, and that scoliotic curve pops out. But as soon as he rotates to the left, it straightens back out. So this is something that it takes a while to work on. It take a couple of years to get some dynamic changes out of his structure. So in the very beginning, we're noticing some static corrections. Now we need to improve that spinal position in a dynamic context. So these following videos we're going to be going over his knee stability improvement. Alright, I want you to notice his knee stability on that right knee. It seems like he loses frontline connection, adductor tension, so the vastus lateralis over anchors and TFL over anchors as he goes through that closed chain hip flexion on the side. This is a step back row, helps strengthen the posterior oblique sling, so we use this dynamic movement to test his connection. So this is his first attempt here, a couple of weeks within our training after doing a lot of postural static work. So it just doesn't have that ground force connection or that connection yet to make sure that knee doesn't buckle out. So in these following videos, is a couple weeks later, we'll be able to demonstrate. Here we are a couple weeks later. Got a lot more connectivity to that closed chain hip flexion on that right leg. The knee stability has improved greatly. So he's confidently enough to be able to move a little bit quicker, as well as have a lot more connectivity in that movement. There's a couple examples here. We'll move on to another clip. Granted, there's a lot of things that we still need to improve. Every now and then the knee will still have a little bit of instability, but it's not varsing out, buckling out nearly as drastic as it was in those first videos that we were watching here. Still experiencing some external rotations. There's a lot of retention that needs to be done. The spiral line, the deep front line, and in the superficial front line, back line, pretty much everything. So it's a work in progress, but definitely a lot of improvement being showcased here.